Welcome back, everyone. So we had a very insightful first session. Now let's get things started for our second and final session of today. Before I introduce our first speaker, we have a very short video to play from our diamond sponsor, Ranked In. So let's play the video quickly, and then we will kick off our start with our first speaker. Thank you so much, Ranked In, for this video. So our first speaker for this session is Alan Thatcher. Alan is the founder of World Squash Day and Squash 200. He also runs the popular squash platform Squash Mad. His enthusiasm and passion for the sport is arguably second to none. Today, Alan will be talking about his plan to build 200 squash courts by 2030. The 200th anniversary of squash and also the 20th World Squash Day happening in September this year. Just to remind you guys, on the right side of your desktop, we have a Q&A section. Please make sure you put your questions on there as Alan does his session so we can ask him some of your questions at the end. Alan, are you ready?
Absolutely.
Amazing. We are so excited. The stage is yours.
Great stuff. Thank you, Kanzi. Good morning, everybody. A big thank you to Zushan, Furkan, and the whole team at Sportageous for setting up the Squash Summit. It was great hearing from Alex and Sarah Jane earlier on about the excellent work being done by the PSA, and also learning from Carlos about his amazing success with open air courts. That's a subject very close to my heart as well, but more of that shortly. We announced some great news yesterday with the dates for the Canary Wharf Classic confirmed for November. It should have taken place next week, of course, but obviously the big virus got in the way. It's been a tough year for all of us in squash, and I'm very grateful to be allowed this platform today to talk about rebooting and relaunching and reinvigorating the game later this year with World Squash Day. But first of all, I'd like to talk about the Squash 200 consultancy and the work we are doing to build clubs for the future. The game of squash, as Kanzi pointed out, celebrates its 200th anniversary in 2030, and I set up Project 200 in conjunction with World Squash Day to encourage every nation, large and small, to come on board and use this vehicle to grow the game and do something very special in their own territory. Here in the UK, I set up the Squash 200 consultancy to build 200 new courts in the next 10 years. Of course, we've all been affected by the pandemic and it stopped our official launch. But I've kept in touch with my network of contacts throughout lockdown, and we now have a dozen projects in the pipeline. Some are simple two-court extensions to existing facilities, and some others are really exciting new build projects. I have two partners in Squash 200, and first of all, I'd like to give a big shout out to the very talented Nick Thompson, owner of Melia Sports. Melia Sports is one of the sponsors of the Squash Summit, and I can tell you that Nick is an experienced court builder and has worked on numerous high-profile events, putting up the glass court at Canary Wharf, the Pyramids, and many other major tournaments in different parts of the world. He's also a very creative guy, and he's come up with some brilliant designs for new open-air courts, and yesterday he launched his very own interactive tin, which looks fantastic. Nick and I are joined by Lee Evans, the owner of the Southeast Steel Building Company. Lee is a former rugby union professional who played in the Premiership for Northampton, and he took up squash when injury halted his professional rugby career. Sadly, Lee stopped playing squash when his local David Lloyd Fitness Club shut down their courts. Lee was not alone, of course, because the David Lloyd fitness chain shut down some 120 squash courts across the UK. Lee and I had already teamed up on an earlier building project in squash, and the whole David Lloyd situation led us to a very simple conclusion that we need squash people to take ownership of the game of squash and not rely on other people to build courts for us, because we are always at their mercy, knowing that the courts could be ripped out either on a whim or if a finance director decides that the squash operations are not making enough money for the parent business. Here in the UK, we are now at the point where squash no longer exists in many towns with populations of 100,000 and above. Now that is a shocking piece of news, and I know that squash faces the same situation all over the world in many other nations. And again, I can only emphasize that for the game to survive, we need new courts and we need squash people to build them. We need squash people to own them, and we need squash people to manage them. We also need to plan these clubs and build them in such a way that they can be profitable businesses. And that's the best way, and probably the only way, to protect the game looking forward to the future. I'm glad that Lee and Nick both liked the Squash 200 concept, and we very quickly connected with potential clients in different parts of the UK, in Ireland, and even mainland Europe. We started working on a number of projects, but then along came COVID and we were unable to start building. However, we've been able to refine our whole approach in the past 12 months, and COVID has actually forced us to rethink several things. The need for open-air courts, as Carlos has explained, is obvious, with indoor sports the first to be closed during lockdown. One of our guests this morning, Ferez Nalasa from New York, a doctor from New York, quite rightly is reminding everybody that this virus is likely to be with us for at least another decade. And so all of us involved in squash need to factor that in to any planning we're doing. And also the sport of squash needs to address one major issue that's holding the game back, and that's the fact that so many of our squash courts are hidden away inside private buildings. Many of these institutions are very expensive to join, with membership fees way beyond the pockets of ordinary folk. So that leads to a very important question. Just what is a squash club? Many of our squash courts are in leisure centres or multi-sport venues, maybe led by tennis or fitness chains. We see courts in private, luxurious country clubs. Many capital cities have squash courts at exclusive business networking clubs. We have lots of courts in embassy compounds, universities, private schools, even army bases. Now, none of these really can be called simple squash clubs, but we've got into the habit of calling any facility with courts a squash club, and that really is a big, big mistake. We know that fitness chains across the world have been dropping squash for years, and this process accelerated during lockdown. Many fitness chains have gone bust in the last few months, as sadly did several major independent sports clubs with squash courts. And the rebuilding of our game has to start with the building of new squash clubs and new courts, both indoor and outdoor. And while we celebrate this extraordinary history of the game of squash, we clearly need to take the game in a new direction. Squash playing numbers have been falling for at least 25 years, and we see a similar decline in tennis. On the other hand, we have seen the phenomenal rise of paddle in South America, in Spain, and across many other parts of Europe. And now paddle is on the rise in North America. Pickleball is already firmly established as a major, fun, recreational sport in the USA, and it's also growing quickly in Canada. Now, please don't fall into the trap of thinking that pickleball is just a silly game with a funny name, because it now has a TV deal with ESPN and more than 4 million players in the USA. That's 4 million players that squash could have had if, instead of hiding our courts away inside private buildings, we did what pickleball did and made our game cheap to join, easy to learn, fun to play, and backed up with a solid social scene. Pickleball has grown by 25% in America in the last 12 months during a pandemic. And further growth in pickleball is assured with new funding coming into the sport all the time. One business owner in Texas is building nearly 200 new clubs across America in the next few years. Now, all this energy reminds me of what squash was like 40 years ago, but I don't see much of it around now. However, this morning, I'm seeing plenty of energy on the Squash Summit, and I can tell you that the team at Squash 200, we are all committed to throwing that energy at squash all over again. And we are looking for squash lovers with the same passion and the same energy to help us rebuild this fantastic sport of ours. For squash to compete in the racket sports sector, we need new clubs. New clubs run in a different way. We need them to be set up as community projects, providing a real sports and social hub in each neighborhood. Here's a quick fact for you. Here in the UK, 1 in 3 of our children is now growing up displaying signs of obesity by the age of 11. We clearly need facilities to deliver significant health benefits, and this is where squash can lead the way in projects like this, because we all know that squash is one of the very best activities for delivering health and fitness and prolonging healthy lives. So naturally, we want squash to be at the heart of these new clubs. Above all, we want them to be fun places, and we have partners like Johnny Powell, a 10-year sponsor of the Kent Open, to help provide some fabulous, fun, social facilities. Johnny's company, 501 Entertainment, is using technology to update some familiar pub games. He started off with darts, and he's now selling games like social darts to a wide range of pubs and sports clubs. And guess what? Guess where the clubs are? I'll tell you. He's selling his pub games to some of these huge pickleball centers that are growing up in the States. Now, in business terms, those venues are not always described as pickleball clubs. Much of the literature describes them as entertainment complexes. I once described Johnny many years ago as a one-man fun palace after a late-night Kent Open party, and that's exactly what he is helping to build in America. Clubs based around fun. And we want Johnny to help us keep some of that fun over here in the UK as well, and not export everything to America. So the people we are looking to partner with must share that kind of vision. The need to make squash fun again and make it popular again. The game is suffering because we play squash inside our little private boxes. And most people in squash at management level, committee level, I've found have such a narrow vision when it comes to growing our great game. We play our sport inside a box, but we absolutely need to think outside the box to grow the numbers back up again. I have loads of discussions all the time with friends all over the world. We discuss new clubs, and the topic always comes up that we're effectively running two small businesses side by side. We're running a sports club and a social space. And a lot of small clubs, sadly, have no idea how to do either of those jobs effectively or professionally. So we need new people with new ideas. We need people who understand technology. We need people who understand business, people who understand how to build audiences. We need coaches who can deliver wave after wave of happy, healthy children. And we need to recruit people from the fitness industry, bring them into squash, and teach us all they know about the constant innovation in the fitness sector and the science of selling membership packages. Believe me, make no mistake, that is very much a science. I want to tell you that the whole ethos of Squash 200 is to drive down the building costs, just as Carlos explained, so that the startup business costs are drastically reduced as well. Thanks to Lee and Nick and all of our business partners, designers, architects, and experts in various essential fields, we have a very strong, experienced team who can help our clients every step of the way. We can hold your hand all the way through, from discussing your dream of owning your own club to putting that vision down on paper, including everything on your wish list, then going through the whole planning process, through to the build, the fitting out, and then on to the delivery. We even have a finance company on board who have huge experience in the sports marketplace, funding new projects like this. So please call in at the Squash 200 table, kindly set up by the Squash Summit, and in a few minutes we can chat about all things squash. I just want to finish off by talking about our plans for World Squash Day later this year. We have moved the date to October the 9th because of a few COVID issues, and we are working on a number of fantastic projects to help the game to relaunch after the trauma of the past 12 months. When I look around the Squash Summit, it's pretty clear that we have some real genius people here in squash. Not only Nick at Melia Sports and Johnny Powell and the Sportagus team, we also have Robert Pacey from Squash Republic. Rob is a genius designer, and he's produced the new World Squash Day logos. I actually took ownership of these at 3 o'clock this morning, and he was working flat out yesterday to get them ready for the Squash Summit. So a huge thank you to Rob over there in Vancouver. Last October, we had to dream up some COVID-safe activities for World Squash Day. But this year, we hope we can celebrate returning to the courts in most countries around the planet. We know that every squash player will be itching to get back on court, but until lockdown is over, we won't know if we've lost any of our casual players. So right now, I'm working on some really exciting plans with numerous partners for everyone to join forces on World Squash Day to reignite our sport. The theme agreed with the World Federation is to put the fun back into squash, which is really perfect after such a tough year for us all. I will be encouraging every nation to stage events that will attract local and national TV coverage. And once again, we want to have World Squash Day lighting up social media. And once again, we will be partnering with the PSA Foundation. James Roberts did a great job with the World Squash Day auction last year to help raise funds for the PSA Foundation We Are One campaign, and we will aim to make it even bigger and better this year. After I speak, Adriana Olaya will be coming on shortly after the Q&A to tell you more about the PSA Foundation. So I will quickly hand you back to Kanzi, and we can discuss any questions you may have about Squash 200 or World Squash Day. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Alan. We really appreciate your time. So I'm going to kick this off by reading a question from one of, I don't even know how to describe him. I'm just going to say one of my favorite people for now, Paul Selby. So Paul, actually, we dealt a lot together, especially me growing up, because he was my first sponsor when I was a kid. So super supportive, always watched my matches, always believed in me. So shout out to Paul.
Good morning, Paul.
So Paul is asking, the hardest aspect of building new facilities is access to funding. The will to build is still there, but the difficulty in financing the project is a big hurdle. How do you envision being able to gain the necessary finance to build those?
Well, thanks to Nick at Melia Sports, we now have a funding partner, the Halo Finance Company, which has huge experience in funding development projects in many, many sports. So I will happily speak to Paul after the show and fill him in on some of those very important details. There are two major major issues, Kanzi and Paul. One is finding the land, and two is finding the money. Finding the land is one issue, but we think we have a solution now with the funding and the finance.
Amazing. Thank you so much. More of a personal question from Mira. Hi, Alan. What's the secret? How do you manage your time as a promoter, squash entrepreneur, World Squash Day founder, journalist? Inspiring.
I used to say it was a combination of ADHD and the Holy Spirit. Oh, and no sleep.
No sleep for sure is the main one. Another question from Dave. Alan, how do you convince leisure center owners who have squash courts not to use them for more lucrative activities such as spinning, yoga, etc.?
Keep them busy with squash.
Exactly.
The whole squash community needs to work harder to keep all those those courts busy, because if they are generating revenue, you're showing the owners that squash can make money for their business. The other 100%. Choice, of course, is talk to me about building your own clubs, then you run the whole show.
I think it's very common for squash courts around the world to misuse squash. So I've seen so many different situations where like people put a ping pong table inside, or people book the court to have kickboxing classes, or to just use it for storage, or things like that.
I hate it. It feels wrong. Just feels wrong.
For sure. Okay, let's take on another question from Richard. Playing devil's advocate, why do we need squash and squash clubs? We all love it, but squash needs to be able to get its message across to non-squash players in non-squash situations.
Totally agree with every word of that question. The biggest issue that we have, like I say, is squash courts being hidden away inside private buildings. So with more open air courts, we can be visible alongside tennis, paddle and pickleball in the open air, and we're then on a level playing field. Our game suddenly becomes visible.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Alan, for your time. We really appreciate it. There's other people who have been asking more questions in the comment section. So, in the Q&A section. So if you want to, after the conference, when we announce the break for the networking session, feel free to go there. And then you can answer more questions at that time.
Thanks, Kanzi. I'd just like to remind everybody I'm on table 32, so we can have a great chat for the rest of the day. Thank you, Kanzi, and thank you to to the whole team at Sportageous. A great, great event. Thank you.
Thank you so much. So before we continue, I'd like to shout out to our diamond sponsors, Ranked In and SportCam. Next, we have a short 1-minute video followed by a few words from Adriana Olaya, who is the manager of the Professional Squash Association. So let's start with the video.
On the court,
We are rivals.
But off the court,
we are one.
كلنا واحد.
Kita jaga kita.
Thank you so much for this video. So next we have Adriana will talk to us a couple of words. Again, Adriana is the manager of the PSA Foundation, and she will be taking the mic next.
Hi, Kanzi. Hi, everyone. And thank you so much for this opportunity and this amazing summit. Thank you, Sushan, and to everyone at Sportageous for organizing it, and to all of our speakers before who are all involved with the foundation in different ways. Just a big thank you for the support we've received so far. We've already raised nearly £300. 100% of these funds go to our players who are still not competing. So without our professional players, the future of our sport is jeopardized. So we need everyone's help to really keep our players coming back when we come back fully on tour. So if you would like to donate, any amount is very valuable. Just you can go to the PSA Foundation website, or you can also go to PSA Foundation /Squash Summit and donate there. So thank you, everyone. And we hope to see you all back playing again. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Adriana. We really appreciate your time.
Thanks.
Okay, so next, I would like to thank Sportageous and specifically Zushan and Furkan, because they have very generously given me the spot. I'm not going to take too much time. I just wanted to kind of share some exciting news and talk to you guys about something. And then also, of course, do a really quick 2-minute competition so that I can give you some giveaways. So basically, for those who know me, my name is Kenzie. I grew up in Egypt. I played in Heliopolis Club my whole life. And I turned pro when I was 12. And I started traveling the world and playing professional tournaments. And this was my life. And my dream was to, of course, become world number one. When I turned 17, I was recruited to go to America to pursue my studies and to play for college squash. I went to Trinity College in Connecticut, where I played number one for 4 years. And I graduated in 2016, being the number one female college squash player in the US. And also, simultaneously, I was playing professional tournaments. So I also reached a high career ranking of 24. Now, a lot of people have been kind of, they saw that I disappeared from the Professional Squash Association. I stopped playing pro kind of out of the blue. It's a lot of people really saw potential in me becoming, at least I'm not going to say world number one, but let's say top 10. I didn't. My career stopped a lot earlier than I had planned. So I stopped when I was 24. I'm 26 now. And I just wanted to come on here to kind of talk about that, and then share what I'm doing today. What happened basically is, due to unfortunate circumstances, I wasn't able to continue my professional career as a 24-year-old. It was one of the hardest things that I ever faced in my life. I never thought that I would quit playing professional squash by 24. My whole life growing up, I thought I would, play until I'm 30 or even longer, or at least until I reach the high career ranking that I was always dreaming for. But life happens, and injuries happen, and unfortunate circumstances happen, and I started putting too much pressure on myself. And at the end of the day, it wasn't meant for me, for so many reasons. So like every squash player, when I left the PSA tour, I was extremely lost. I didn't know what to do with my life. I didn't know what to do, with anything. Like, squash was completely my life, from waking up in the morning until sleeping at night. So I went from being a full-time professional athlete to being, I have no idea who I am. I don't even know what other skills I have, even though I have, a good high school and a college degree. But us as professional squash players, this is how we define ourselves, as squash players, not as anything else. So it was really hard for me to kind of find that calling and find that pathway. Hi, Maya. Sorry, can you just? Oh, perfect. So sorry about that. So yeah, it was basically one of the hardest things I was ever, going through as a profession and as a former professional squash player. And I decided to kind of turn things around. And instead of crying over not doing things or not reaching my dreams, I decided to switch my dreams. So yes, I did not reach, top 10 in the world, but why don't I create new dreams for myself and, use other skills and qualifications that I have and kind of go after other things. So I moved to Dubai just over 2 years ago. And ever since I moved here, I've been closely studying the market, the squash market, obviously. And I really saw a huge gap and a huge opportunity, because Dubai is one of those countries where you have all the resources. So you have so many squash courts, it's ridiculous. In every residential building, in every fitness club, in most of the hotels, it's everywhere. Resources are everywhere. And Dubai is also one of those cities where you have over 200 nationalities of expats. So you have so many people from the UK, Pakistan, India. So many people love squash, and there are squash courts. But how do we fill that gap in between? Why isn't there a squash community? Why isn't there a one squash facility, or squash clubs, or squash leagues? I mean, of course, thanks to the PSA foundation with the PSA series that's been happening every year, people in the UAE are a bit more educated about squash, but it's still very minor. It's actually the only big event that happens here in the UAE, other than, nothing else is happening, not even small leagues, nothing. So I really saw an opportunity, and I saw a gap, and I decided that I wanted to put all of my effort and all of my love and passion for squash into really creating an impact by opening my own squash academy in the UAE, specifically in Dubai. And the goal of the academy is two things. So number one is to obviously create as much exposure as possible for the sport, where I will, the academy is promoting squash services for people from 5 years old until 60 years old as a healthy sport, as, people, if you want to get fit, if you just want a fun sport to play. So it's for everyone. It's open to all the communities, all levels, no matter what your level is, no matter what your age is, you are welcome. And the second goal of the academy is to really target the young kids and the young generations, because with those young kids in, high school, and let's say from the ages of 7 to 15, if you really build that interest for the kids from such a young age, and they fall in love with the sport, then the country has a huge potential of creating a national team. And why not create a national team in a country that has literally all the resources? We just have to embed the interest and the idea of squash for those kids. So yeah, this is the goal. Ideally, we want to create a national team for the UAE, and this is not just to have a local impact, but it's also to inspire globally. It's to inspire other countries across the world to take initiative. And if you don't have squash in your country, you have the ability to create it and to create that interest and to build communities together and to educate people about squash, and then eventually to build your own national team as well. So I think one step at a time, if each country just starts to just take one step forward towards having an impact in the squash world, I think squash can really develop a lot in the next 5 to 10 years. So sorry if this was long. I'm gonna stop talking, but I just wanted to play a quick game. So I haven't really been promoting the Squash Academy. I haven't not promoted it at all because we are launching after Ramadan. So on May 15th. But so no one would know this information just because I haven't been sharing it. But what I wanted to do is basically I'm gonna play a quick game. It's gonna take 2 minutes. I'm gonna show you guys the logo of the academy, and the game is to basically try to guess first. So 2 guesses. Number 1 is what the name of the academy is, and number 2 is what the logo represents. And the winners will get a full-on gear of the academy's branding, including a t-shirt, shorts. If you're a female, you will get a skirt, wristbands, headbands, and maybe a personalized racket, because also exciting news, the academy will be sponsored by Hero. So we are in the talks of having a personalized racket as well. So let me just share my screen. Okay. Can you guys see my screen? Not sure. Okay, I don't think my screen is working. Just give me. Sorry guys, just give me 1 second. I'm just figuring out my screen. I would skip the game, but I think it's gonna be really fun. So let's. Okay, so Furkan to the rescue. I just sent him my my presentation, and he will share it right now. In the meantime, I just want to see. Yeah, no, that's it. Okay. In the meantime, if you guys have any questions for me, or you want to connect on, you want to collaborate on any means, please do reach out to me whenever you want. I'm actually going to put my email in the chat section, and feel free to reach out to me. Oh. Okay. Furkan, are you going to share the screen? Okay, amazing. Okay, I think just so I don't take more time from Maya's session, I will introduce Maya. She can do her session, and then we can play my game after. Okay. So our second and last speaker of today's summit is Maya MIBENGE. Maya is the head coach and founder of Simply Squash Academy in Zambia. And after spending 20 years in banking, in 2019, she decided to follow her passion and get more women and girls fighting fit on the court. Today, she will be discussing the vision behind Simply Squash and its plan to launch its 2021 initiative, Hit Like a Girl. I love the name of this campaign. It's so cool. Hit Like a Girl. In search of new talent and to also engage more girls to find their power through sports. Maya, the stage is yours.
Thanks very much, Kanzi. All right. Hi, everybody. Maya here from Simply Squash Academy in Zambia. I'm just going to share my screen. Let's see. Give me 1 second. Hang on. I'm not sure. Are you able to see my screen? Hang on. Are you able to see my screen? It's not coming up on my side. 1 second. Okay,
no, we can't see your screen.
Okay, while I'm getting that sorted out, I can start running through it, and I'll forward it to Furkan, so he can have a look. He can see if he can put it up for me. Okay, but basically, first things first, I just like to say thank you very much to Sportages for inviting us to this event as Simply Squash. We are fairly new, fairly quiet. So, I mean, we were lucky to have sort of bumped into them last year, where I wrote an article for Sportages as well. Just hang on 1 second. Sorry, I'm just trying to send the presentation through. Sorry about this. Sure. Okay, sorry everyone. I'm not sure what's. Okay, I shall. Okay, I think I have managed to send it through. I'm just going to get started. I'll go through the presentation, and if anybody does want to have it, if I'm not able to share it, then they can always contact me, and I can go through and run through it with you separately. So what Simply Squash is, basically for the summit, Simply Squash, we're empowering women and girls, and we say one hit at a time. One hit at a time. Everybody that comes in, we've had people who have never held a racket before, had a variety of ages as well. So what we're trying to do is create an atmosphere for women to get on court, participate, and also help us grow the sport in Zambia, and hopefully regionally and internationally as well. So we launched in 2019. When we started, we were borrowing space from a club and basically colliding with. But we had a huge success last year. Despite COVID, we managed to find our own courts, and we moved out, and we're managing and renting our own courts at the moment, where we're managing our own membership, and we're managing our own customers as well, and we are growing. Our mission is realizing the full potential of women and girls through sports to match their mental and emotional strengths. And our vision is offering a unique wellness experience by producing premier squash coaching for women by women. I would like to say some of these we've tweaked these a little bit just as a result of COVID. We had a lot of changes, and we also had to appreciate that in as much as we are trying to get women on court, there's a lot of ripple effects. A lot of the women that we have brought their husbands and their children to court as well, which we've taken on, and that's been fine. We've also started to appreciate the fact that even if the women are competing, if women are competing against women, we have an advantage that we can also compete against men and raise our game. So we're also hiring some new male recruits as well, but predominantly we're women run. So I'm just going to give you my backstory. Okay, so my journey. Okay, after almost 20 years in corporate banking, about 16, 17 years ago, I signed up for a squash session almost accidentally. I was trying to fit sports into my work life. I was young and I was not exercising, not doing anything. So I said, okay, I'll give it a try. And coming from a tennis background, it was the most reasonable thing to do because it was 24/7. I didn't have to worry about the weather. I didn't have to worry about the time. I was just able to play whenever I wanted to, and it fit around my schedule. In the 15 years that I was playing socially before I started coaching, I only played 3 women socially. Other than that, I would play with a male coach, and that would be it. And there was a few women coming in and out of the clubs. They'd come, they'd disappear, they'd come, they'd disappear, etc., etc. So, as I said, I wasn't really able to find anybody to play socially. So basically, I was squeezing my squash games around my career. But 3 years ago, I started to squeeze my career around my squash, and I was playing 5 to 6 times a day. And again, still not playing with women, still looking for women to play for. And basically, 2019, Simply Squash was born. And I was asked very simply, why did you start this? And I remember saying, I said, I just want women friends to play with. That was my basic explanation of the whole thing. But I realized women have a different mentality to sport. In as much as we play strong. We also want to socialize. So it was trying to create. We were trying to create an environment for women to be able to play safely, to play against each other, to play with a female coach, and to just sort of rise to the occasion. And as I said, rise they did. As I said, they brought in their husbands, they brought in their friends, they brought in unsuspecting children. We've had a huge growth because of that, focusing on the women who are decision makers to that extent. So, what are we aiming to do? We're aiming to empower through a combination of sport, mentorship, and education. Sport we've chosen is obviously squash, close to my heart. And how we plan on doing this? So initially, as I said, when I started, I just wanted squash female friends. And we started the recruitment. I recruited two girls, more on them later on, 3 coaches, more on them later on. But the ladies that we recruited were corporate women like me. So, so I knew what their headspace was. Work hard, family, children, school run, all these other things that women are trying to balance. And I knew what the constraints were as well. Because for me, I knew one of the things about squash was time. If I was supposed to play at 6, but I had a meeting finishing at 5:30, I was never going to make it there alive. And there was a lot of cancellations and rescheduling. And I remember I always had to play in the evening because that's when the coaches were available at my club. But I'm a morning person, so I kept saying if I could play at 5 in the morning, 5 in the morning, play, get shower, and go to the office, I'd be able to kill it. So one of the things that we've done with the ladies that we have, we've created that opportunity. We open at 5 a.m. and our last game is at 7 p.m. We're hoping to automate our courts as well, our lights and things like that as well, so that people will be able to swipe in and play 24 hours if we can so manage it. Not with a coach 24 hours, but they can play 24 hours socially as well. Other thing, women-focused exercise spaces are minimal here. There's one gym I'm aware of that is for women only. Other than that, everything is sort of like a co-ed. And we did have a group of Muslim ladies coming through to our courts. It was women. Our cleaners were women, the coaches were women. So we're able to dive across different cultures as a result of of the course that we're now running and maintaining as well. Then what I also found about the ladies is a lot of people come to us. It's a reactionary instinct. I've been told I need to lose weight, or I've got high BP, or etc. etc. What we try to do, what we're trying to do is we're trying to offer them a space where for the ladies who haven't reached the stages of BP or weight loss needs, etc., we're trying to almost create it so that it's preventative. For the ladies who need to lose weight, play squash, the weight will come off. The ladies who are at that age where they need to start exercising, play squash. Your health levels, your health levels are out of the roof as well. So on that, these women that we now have as our members, we offer them one-on-one sessions. We'd offered a squash boot camp before COVID, and we also have networking and social tournaments for them as well. We were running them once a month. COVID numbers spiked. We've shut that down again, but we have done an out-of-town trip to a town which is about an hour and a half away that had a squash court, which nobody knew about. We went there for a weekend. We organized it as a squash retreat. And it was just a nice weekend. Everybody was able to get away, play squash. I think one day, we were playing until 8:30 p.m. I think before we almost swept off the courts, and we just stopped because we were hungry. And I think the next morning we were on court by about 6:30, 7 o'clock in the morning. So it was a nice break for women. This is sort of like we say, it's their self-care. It's the benefits health, the benefits social. They get to network as well. So it's an all-inclusive. The other things that we want to introduce like a nutritionist. As I said, we're trying to make sure it's an overall wellness for the women, and also alternative exercises on site, just to draw in some more people, because I tend to find that a lot of people don't know a lot about squash. Even a lot of the people who have come in, I've asked people, have you watched the squash game before? The new ladies, some will say, oh, I saw it in a video for about a minute, and I have a feeling the Queen's Gambit is going to get us a little bit of publicity because they were playing squash inside there. Yay! But other than that, people don't really have that, the knowledge or even watching the games, etc., like that as well. So we're hoping if we can start combining other exercises, whether it's it's a Zumba class on part of our course, on our course, part of our hall. People are able to see us ladies playing and see different shapes, different sizes of ladies playing as well. So we're hoping that will draw in more ladies. But the beauty about these ladies as well, they come in as mentors. Because there are a group which is like over 23. They're established in their careers, or they're trying to change their careers, or they're already mothers, or they're about to be mothers, or they're newlyweds. They're established in their careers, and they've decided to make health a priority. So those are the people that we want to be mentoring our Hit Like a Girl campaign students when we get there. But before we get to the Hit Like a Girl campaign students, we have another category which we're calling the Ready to Launch. These are the girls age 18 to 21 who have just finished the grade 12, Form 5, and there's a gap year here in Zambia, as people have to wait for, I think, almost 12, 13 months to get into university after they write their grade 12. They're going to the University of Zambia. And in that 12, 13-month period, all sorts of trouble and toil can happen during that period. So what we did, even our first recruitment, this is where our assistant coaches, our coaches who were then interns, came in. We recruited 2 interns. They were both had written their grade 12 exams and are waiting to go to university or waiting to go on to the next step of their lives. We recruited them in as interns. They stayed with us as assistant coaches, and now they're full coaches. And they play according to their schedule. And that's sort of the structure that we're looking for as well. We will need permanent staff as we grow, but for now, we're trying to make sure that we're keeping them busy, and also trying to engage their age mate as well. So what we offer to the Ready to Launch group, we really offer employment opportunities, one-on-one coaching if they want it. We want to do group sessions for them as well, COVID allowing, and mentoring and networking circles, because they also have access to the players, to our professional to our career women players. Then finally, we have our junior group, which is the girls, and these are the Hit Like a Girl target students. We're saying for this group, there'll be some boot camps. We're saying age 11 to 18, but our youngest client at the moment is 4 years old. She comes in with her parents. She hits 3 or 4 balls. She has a snack. I play with her parents. She comes in, hits a few more balls, and she heads out again and has another snack. So, she's 4, but watching her parents has got her to have that interest in hitting a ball. So for the Hit Like a Girl, we will have the mentors. The mentors, as I said, will be our players, and we'll reach out further if need be. But we've got such a diverse background of ladies that for us, we're almost, I think we're almost fully covered. I'm not saying 100% covered, but we're covered in role models. People who are prioritizing their work and their health as well. And that's what we want to be showing to these girls, because, as I said, we have 11 to 18, but the 18 to 21-year-olds tend to tail off as they go into university. They're busy. It's freedom from parents, freedom from school. Some of them might continue playing sports. Some of them might have not played sports even when they were in secondary school. So we're trying to create that emphasis. They have people that they can talk to about their careers, about their health, who can tell them about, I didn't exercise for 10 years and look at me, not look at me now as in to scare them, but to more, if I'd started this 10 years ago, I'd be 10 years healthier than where I am at now. So those are for the girls. And with the Hit Like a Girl campaign, there's the mentors, and then we're also at the squash, which is a sport, and education. The education aspect rose up because of COVID. There's been lots and lots of talks about a lot of girls getting pregnant during this, young girls not going back to school, getting pregnant during COVID. But one of the reasons being was, firstly they're cut off from school. Some of them, school might be their safe space, say their safe place from whatever is happening at home. We're not sure, but there was a spike. And why I wanted to bring in education is we'd like to have a facility that is able to house these girls, so that they're able to, for those who have fallen back because of COVID, or for those who are even just trying to keep up because of COVID. But we want to have a center where these girls are able to do their homework, or to sort of catch up. If they need assistance, we can offer them assistance, or we can try to see how the best way is to get to get our girls through, get them through school and onwards as well. So that's where the education aspect is coming through in that. And then we would also have junior competitions as well for the kids, for the girls as well. In as much as they're networking with our mentors, they're networking with each other. They have a new peer group, which they can use for support, for advice, and they can also come through to us as well. And that's what we sort of want to create a gel for them. So they have a common standing ground, which is what we'd like. So my next slide, which I know you can't see, sorry about that, is our team. So at the moment, there are 4 female coaches. We have 1 male assistant coach and 1 new female intern. As I said, we're a growing team at the moment. We are covering everybody. We are working around people's schedules. We're trying to make sure that if, like, one of our girls was accepted at University of Zambia Veterinary School, so she predominantly plays on Saturdays, Sundays, and in the evenings as well. And please bear in mind as well, these two, when they came in as interns, they were both sporty. One of them played tennis, and the other one played volleyball. Played netball, football, and something else. She's a machine. But basically, we did an intense training session, which is what we're doing now with our new intern. One of the interns has already been turned into an assistant coach, and one of the interns was also turned into a coach because she had coaching experience. She had playing and coaching experience as well. So we're trying to make sure that we're drawing in we're drawing in the characteristics that we want. And that's basically our team. And I know in Lusaka, I would like to be bold to say that we are the only academy or club with in-house coaches. Usually everywhere else is a freelance coach, which was another reason that the ladies have a lot of challenges. If you have a coach, and this happened to me, I had a coach and he died after I paid him for a month and a half. So those are the challenges that you can have. So, but for us, we have in-house coaches. If your coach is not available, there's somebody to cover for you. If your coach is late or unprofessional, we have repercussions. We're trying to create a standard, a professionalism, and we're trying to be ethical as well and fair to our customers, basically. Squash in the time of COVID. So COVID, we were like 6 months when COVID hit, and we luckily survived. We had a lot of great customers. We had a lot of people that popped us up during that time as well. We had a lot of support. We had a spike again in January in Lusaka, in Zambia, and we kept the academy open with the mentality of play safe. Our coaches are masked up. We're sanitizing. We're encouraging everybody because we used to provide equipment to help to reduce that cost on newcomers as well. But we're now trying to, but we sanitize. I think we only have like 3 or 4 customers who are still using our rackets, but otherwise everybody else has bought their own kit. We've set internal COVID protocols and we're following the government guidelines. So basically, to wrap up, what is our future vision? So the 2021 hit like a girl. We'd like to launch this campaign. We're engaging government officials. We're engaging different departments. We're trying to find the girls from low income that need this help. And we're also going to try to match it up. We're going to try to match up with girls across all groups. Different schools as well. We're approaching schools. We're approaching, entities that might be able to help us as well, so that we can have these junior boot camps, especially when it's slightly safer inside this whole COVID scenario that we're currently in at the moment. We want to get as many girls on court, and as I said, we've hired a male intern and would do corresponding junior male courses as well, probably on a smaller scale, but just to get the kids interested inside of sports and the values of it and the benefits and the networking and the mentoring as well. But what our big vision is we are trying to build our own multifaceted sports center. It would be predominant, we're biased if we would lie if we said that it wasn't focused around squash. But we are looking at, we're at the real initial stages. We're looking at land. We're looking at building. We're looking at building, whether we say 3 indoor courts and 2 outdoor courts, or, trying to figure out what the logistics of that looks like. We're trying to put tennis courts in. We're trying to find other racket sports and then also coordinate into this whole thing so that we have, so it's not just, as Alan was saying, a hidden squash court somewhere. We're trying to make sure that it's multi-purpose. As I said, a lot of the ladies we target bring in their children. So it would be 100 times easier for a mother to come in and play and her child who's too young to play squash, or not interested in squash, to take swimming lessons, as the mother is playing, or, have a center where people are able to actually to tap into different types of sports and as a family as well, so that we get the kids engaged in different sports, whatever their strengths are as well. We also want to house an athletics recovery type of center. We want to have a chiropractor, a physiotherapist, a masseuse, etc., etc., etc. I think we kind of wing it with our health. Even for us, myself and the girls, we've had injuries and we kind of keep playing, or we kind of limp around a little bit, but we kind of hop around and then we're okay. So what we want to do is, so what we would actually like to do is we'd like to make sure that that we have somewhere where, even from the beginning, a nutritionist as well, even from the beginning, if somebody has an athletic tendency, because especially like my background, I think if I had said at age 19 to my parents that I wanted to be a squash coach, I don't think that would have gone down very well, And I mean, the passion came later on when, lucky enough, they can't disown me or something else. But we want girls to have the option, girls, boys, especially, to have the option of athletics as a career. As I said, like now, all of our coaches, we're all working part-time. We go in as and when we're needed. We do our coaching sessions. We get commission. But we'd like it to be solidified so that when we are busy, we do have, whether we say 2 full-time coaches and the rest of us are still coming in and out, so you can still earn income. But so that's our headspace around that, and even like, if somebody wants to be a chiropractor or a physiotherapist or a masseuse, those, they'll have offices, they'll have a place, they'll have clients, where they can build up on that as well. We'd also like to start hosting regional tournaments for juniors and professional players. This is particularly women focused. We want to make sure that the women have, our seeded women have, like, whether we say a quarterly tournament, so that they keep track of their records, they're able to play regularly. And and on our courts, we're trying to sort of structure that so we can find a way we can give them a prize money match to the males, equal prize money like that as well. The junior females as well, we'd like to also make sure that that's a base that we're also trying to grow as well. Okay, so then we also want to create a fund to support athletes locally, nationally, and internationally. With this whole crunch that's been happening, we've been so busy trying to scamper to get ourselves together. But if we if we'd opened 10 years ago and we had a Zambian playing professional squash, we would have been like, sorry, COVID, we're also affected as well. But we want to have a fund to make sure that if we are able to identify talent, we can push them to the forefront and we can support them. Because I know squash can be lonely, especially when it comes to funding, and we would like to be able to do our bit, whether for our own athletes and for international athletes as well, with the funds that are out there as well. And then create an educational center for kids on site. As I was saying, that's to help the kids who, COVID has affected a lot of people with online learning. Some kids have gone to school and there has been no online learning or distance learning, so they just lost a whole year of education. So we are trying to see how we can close that gap, get them to play sports, get them to do the extra educational aspect that they need as well. So basically, we have other things in the pipeline as well. We're trying to create our own clothesline range. We're launching some bags in a couple of weeks' time, etc., 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 etc. We hope to grow. We hope to bring some fun into squash. As I said, we targeted the women, and as I said, the women are bringing in friends, they're bringing in husbands, they're bringing in children, they're bringing in the nation, basically. And for my ladies who I know, some of you have signed on, I would like to say thank you, thank you, thank you for all of your support as well. So that's basically, for us, what we really want to do is just lay down the basics to ignite squash amongst women in Zambia and to identify, groom and train new talent, offering them a chance to explore the game across and beyond our borders. So from me, I'd like to say thank you to Sportageous again and to everybody on the site. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Maya. This was very, very inspiring. Thank you so much. So just to keep the session going, I'm going to read a couple of questions from the Q&A section. There's a lot of people who actually are asking a lot of questions. So someone is asking, Karen, she's asking, your brand is Simply Squash. How will that fit with a multi-purpose focus?
Okay, so one of the things that we're doing, one of our coaches actually was a tennis player, so we were looking at doing Simply Tennis. So for us, we're as I said, simply, we're trying to not complicate anything. So we've looked at it and said, just do Simply Sports. And then Simply Sports will house the different facilities, the different, Simply Health for Simply Health, or Simply Recovery, Simply Tennis, Simply Squash. simply badminton or whichever, simply swimming or whatever it is. But we put this under an umbrella company. But squash would be our priority sport to start off with, because that's where hopefully mine and the other ladies' hearts lie as well.
Amazing, thank you. Next question. Have you faced obstacles, or has your academy been warmly accepted and supported?
Ooh, we faced a lot of obstacles, a lot of obstacles. I was having a conversation with somebody. I said, if I'd known all of the challenges and some of the dramas and some of the arguments that we'd had, I think I said before I started looking for squash friends, I don't know if I would have done it. It's a funny struggle, as I said. Not a lot of people are aware of squash, and those that are aware of squash is quite a close-knit group. So even us moving out of where we were playing from, which was my home club, and moving to NASDAQ and running our own clubs, has given us that separation and a chance to bring in totally new clients to the game, which has come in as a nice surprise.
Okay, amazing. We have another question. Maya, you are a role model. Are you succeeding in developing a network of similar groups, say in Botswana?
We would like to. COVID slowed us down. We had, like last year, we had a lot of plans that we were supposed to have done last year. And I mean, I'll say a simple one, like even us getting our level 1 certificate squash coaching for all of our coaches. That was going to be like a 6-month requirement for anybody who joined us. And we were going to go into the region as well. I worked in Zimbabwe for a year. I know coaches there. So I'd wanted to sort of start reaching out. But when COVID came in and so many things shut down, but we are looking, because we would like to be a regional. We would like to be a regional, we say SADC, or whether, further than SADC, we'd like to engage Egypt for their coaches, what I mean, if we can. We'd like to sort of, create that buzz within the region. So if there is anybody that's out there that is interested, as I said, right now, because of COVID, we're just, sometimes we're swimming, sometimes we're winning, sometimes we're losing, but we do have a plan for how we'd like to expand regionally. Because we're discussing franchises, or do we just go out there and set up something separate, or so we're having a lot of discussions. We are a year and a half old, so we're not toddlers, but we're walking in a little bit of a shaky way, but moving forward still. Mm-hmm.
Okay, perfect. And one more question. So I can't find it right now, but I remember it. So someone was asking, how do you reach your ladies? How do you reach that specific audience in Zambia?
When we first initially started, it was predominantly social media, Facebook, Instagram. Facebook I always know is an older crowd, and Instagram is a younger crowd. So initially when we started, we were reaching out to Facebook, and that's why, like our oldest player is 58 years old. She's almost 60. And our youngest player, which came out of Facebook, I think is about 26. But a lot of our Instagram people were the ones who were like 22 to 26 sort of type of area as well. So a lot of it was social media, and then now we're growing a lot by word of mouth. Again, thank you to the ladies that we have.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Maya, for your time. We really appreciate it. For everyone else who has asked questions in the Q&A section, I apologize if I haven't gotten to them. But fortunately, when we end the session, everyone will have the opportunity to network for another hour. So feel free to ask Maya all of your questions there, and you can also sit with other speakers. You can visit the sponsors booth. You can find exhibitors there as well. So feel free to not miss this networking opportunity. I also just wanted to say, due to the lack of time that we had today, I will be sharing the presentation of the guessing game of my logo of the Academy in tomorrow's session. So if you guys are still interested in participating in the giveaway, and if you want to wear some cool gear, feel free to join us tomorrow for the second day of the summit, so you can guess what the Academy's name is and what the logo means, and then I will be announcing the winners tomorrow as well. Last but not least, I wanted to thank one more time our diamond sponsors, Ranked In and Sportcam, and of course Sportageous, Zushan and Furkan. Thank you so much for a successful first day, and we all look forward to tomorrow's second day at the Squash Summit.
Yeah, thanks everyone. Just wanted to add as well that the lounge and the arena area will stay open between today and tomorrow. So feel free to keep networking beyond the 1 hour time that we previously mentioned. And we look forward to seeing you tomorrow on day 2. Thanks again for joining. See ya.